shift, keeping watch at Area 51. Mind is sharp, eyes locked like a loaded gun. CCTV feeds, ET beings. Don't come round here, we can kill it if it bleeds. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Orbs light up the sky, something isn't right. Dark truths hidden, but I'm aware. Night shift soldier, secrets everywhere. You on the night shift, baby. On patrol, night camouflage, stealth mode on. Walking through the silence till the break of dawn. Hidden bases, close encounters of the fourth kind. Bob Lazar was right, this life's a grind. Sci-fi stories going down right before my eyes. They beaming signals for the stars, no disguise. Clearance above top secret, that's the key. You on the night shift, baby. Welcome to the mystery.
All right, coming to you live from a supply room deep beneath the bowels of the New York City subway system. It's the night shift. It's Friday. It's 2:32 p.m., July 19th. And we're back after a controversial episode on Wednesday. And we're going to see if this one goes off just as well as that one. Maybe even better. Who knows? What would you do if I sang out of tune? What would you do if disclosure happened tomorrow? What would that change for you? Because in the last couple of days, I've been giving a lot of thought. Let me back up. Welcome to the new subscribers who have just joined us. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad you're here. We are almost at 6,000 subscribers for this channel. And I was getting ahead of myself. We're getting to the end before we got to do the thing. Almost at 6,000 subscribers. Go team. Team Night Shift. You guys are outstanding. It's great to know that so many people are interested in having this conversation. I am certainly excited to know that I am not the only one screaming into the dark about all the crazy things that are going on. But more importantly, not just the crazy things that are going on, but what those things mean. I think that's the thing that gets lost in the conversation a little bit. So it's great to have you. I'm so excited that we're going to cross the 6,000 sub threshold soon. We're still the most undervalued, underrated YouTube show about UFOs and UAPs and disclosure. I'm stand by that. So you're in on the ground floor of something. What that is, I don't know, but you're here on the ground floor. So wherever we go from here, you guys knew about it before it was cool. Remember that. That's who you want to be. So almost 6,000 subs. Welcome everyone on board. It's great to have you. Basically, if you're new here, the idea behind Night Shift is that this is a conversation. This is a discussion. A lot of YouTube channels are kind of vanity projects, or somebody wants to put out a particular message. I don't really have a particular message that I'm trying to like hammer home. What I'm about is asking questions, talking to you guys, processing all of this. Look, since 2017, the world's changed. I mean, it's kind of an open secret now. UFOs are real. Aliens are real. Non-human intelligence is here. It's been here for a long time. It interferes with our nuclear weapons. It's seen every day, all over our skies, all over the world, by our pilots. Not just any pilots, but the best of the best of the best pilots are seeing these things every single day, loitering around training areas, doing all kinds of different weird things, jamming our communications, interfering with our radar sensor systems. So, there's a ton of questions that immediately come to mind. Like, are they a threat? That's an important one. Are they here to help us or harm us? Well, a lot of people say if they were going to harm us, they would have done it a long time ago. Maybe, but if they were going to help us, maybe they would have done that a long time ago too. And then we get into a whole thing about, well, they've tried to help us, but they haven't really been, and they gave all the things to this one guy. See, this one guy out in somewhere, Idaho, he's got the secret, and the Pleiadians gave it to him. And we're all just waiting for this guy to become the ascended master he's destined to become and then lead us to salvation. There's a lot of questions that come to mind when you accept the fact that your reality now includes an intelligence that is superior to humans and is out there, not just out there, but everywhere, all around us. And it's active, it's doing shit. It's not just idle. And not only is there one, there are likely many. If there's one other intelligence, clearly, I mean, there must be many, many different ones, right? I mean, it's almost even more unlikely that there would be just two. So it's not just us. And I think we're kind of in this community on board with that idea. If you're here, you've kind of taken that on board and now you're proceeding forward with a new framework. So if we're all in the same timeline here, we should be talking about this. We should be talking about it in a serious, honest way, frank conversations about a world with non-human intelligence in it, extraterrestrial intelligence in it. And, forget aliens for just a minute. Even if you leave aliens out of this conversation, extraterrestrials, aliens, depending on what you're talking about, AI is going to be here any minute. Artificial superintelligence is just a hop, skip, and a jump away. If you don't believe that, you're out of your mind. There's no way it's not going to happen. So within, let's say official disclosure does take place. Let's say it takes place 10 years from now. 10 years from now, whoever's the president, if we still have a president, comes out and says, here's the story. Okay. Probably between now and then, we're going to have to contend with some kind of artificial superintelligence that operates at speeds we can't even fathom and has goals that we have no way of comprehending. And it could look like what it looked like today. It could look like a massive global computer outage that suddenly, maybe that was it. That could have been it. Who knows? That's the thing. You can't outsmart something smarter than you. And when it thinks 30,000 years of time in the span of a week, what do you do? What do you do against that? What power do you actually have? Do you actually have any agency or power in a world where there's something that can at any time basically manhandle our whole civilization? Think about it. It's probably the way much of the animal world feels. I'm sure it's the way whales feel when they're being hunted, or dolphins, or a whale that's being held in captivity. They probably feel brilliant when they're in their element, but suddenly they're swimming in an aquarium at SeaWorld. And they're like, what happened? So into that framework comes Night Shift. That's the idea here. I want to hear from you. I want to throw ideas out there. I want to talk about stuff. I want to basically spitball with you guys because I can't process all this by myself. That's why I started the show. I can't process all this. It's too much. I don't think anyone. We'll get to it in a second, but I don't think any one person can really process it. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take scientists. It's going to take engineers. It's going to take Nobel Prize people. It's going to take artists. It's going to take craftspeople. It's going to take regular blue collar people. It's going to take kids. It's going to take old people. It's going to take everybody because we're one species. We have, or at least we need to start acting like we are. And we have to think bigger. It's just the fact. It's where we are. We have to grow up. Evolve or perish, grow up or die. That's kind of where we are. So it's a long way of saying, welcome to the Night Shift. That's the kind of stuff we talk about here. And if you're interested in being more involved in these conversations, I encourage all of you to get into the comments and continue the conversations there. It really helps that when I invite people to come on the show, that when they go to see the comments and they kind of research what we're all about here, they read these really well thought out discussions. And it's not just one or two comments, but these threads are really getting deep. So stay involved there. And if you want to be involved at another level, welcome everybody in the chat. Hey guys. I'm trying to check the chat back and forth here more. I'm trying to get better at this. Welcome chat people. So if you want to be involved in a more direct way, well, that's pretty direct. I mean, just helping promote the channel does a lot. But you can also do this. You can also go to teamnightshift.com. It's our website. I'm very proud of it. I think it looks amazing. And here, can I do this? Let's try this. I think it looks amazing. I'm very proud of it. Oh, I don't have my little music. That's okay. I'm very proud of it. And this is where you can connect a little bit more directly with the show. The idea here is, here we go. Episodes, you can see recent episodes. I won't spend all day on this. On the main page, if you just look at the main page and scroll down, I'm putting together kind of a timeline of serious events here. So if you've got a friend or a relative or a family member who's sort of like, I don't know, it's kind of all BS, isn't it? You can take them here. You can go to Team Night Shift. You can scroll down on it's on the very first page, right when you get here. You can scroll down. You can see here it is, New York Times article, Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal, Glowing Auras, Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program. You can click this link. It'll take you to the actual article. You can see the 60 minutes special that was done shortly thereafter with Ryan Graves and Fravor. You can scroll down here and see David Grush's interview with Ross Coulthart, which is outstanding, of course, if you haven't already seen it. We've got the Schumer Amendment. We've got Colonel Carl Nell and his SALT conference. I want to put some things in there from the Soul Foundation, and there's new stuff I still have to add. I just haven't had time. So this is where you can go and basically see a presentation. It's not really a presentation, but all the stuff is in one place where you can see the very serious, very highly credentialed, highly positioned people in a position to know saying what they know and laying out the case. That's kind of what's going on. And then you can scroll down, and there's a thing about me at the very bottom. It says join the night shift, get updates on new episodes and special events. Go here, put in your name and email. I don't send out spam. I'll send you maybe one email every few weeks until I get some help and I can actually spend more time writing emails. Right now, I'm burning the candle at both ends, just trying to keep this show, keep the wheels from falling off. But you'll occasionally get an email from me, and it'll be very personal, and it'll be amazing, and it'll have awesome things in it. So if you want to do that, you can go here. If you need to reach out to me directly, if you're somebody who's got a story to tell or you want to talk about a particular aspect of the phenomenon, your own personal experience, something that happened to you, something that you're working on, you're researching, you've got a documentary coming out, I'm always looking for cool and interesting guests who have something to add to this conversation. So you can click on make contact at the very top here, and it'll just open up this email box. You can basically tell me what you're trying to do and send me an email, and then hit punch it, Chewy, and I will get that email. Little trivia: Chewy not only is the galaxy's favorite Wookiee, he's also the name. It's also the name of my pug. 16 years young. Chewy the pug. Okay, so that's the website, and of course, YouTube channel. You can go here, and you can see our YouTube channel and check everything out. Blah, blah, blah. It's all here. And if you want to get kind of an idea of roughly the sort of tone and tenor of the show, I've got a little trailer video, a little channel trailer video here called UFOs, Aliens, and the Military Industrial Complex. I put it together 7 months ago. This is when I first launched the channel. It's only been 7 months. Wow. But it kind of sets up the idea, kind of where we're at, which is what I want to talk to you about in a minute. All right, so there is the YouTube channel, the website. Let's get rid of that. I have to thank the members. Membership has been going off the charts. It's crazy. This is amazing. We're pushing 40 memberships so far. This is really impressive. Guys, thank you so much for becoming members and supporting the channel. Let me go back to my other camera. Here we go. Thank you for becoming members. Blood Willow, One, Space Cow, Poor Management, Mike O, Alan, producer Brandon, Craig William, Beth, Luis, Russo, Sage, Sleuth, Matt, Pedro, Brian Jackson, Mark Bates, Phi Trader, Avi Z, Christopher Hovord. Thank you to Christopher Hovord, by the way. Thank you for gifting. He gifted 10 memberships just in our last episode on Wednesday. You are a true hero of planet Earth. Thank you. I salute you. Pack Rat, Proud Vermin, Heather Willow, Joseph Christopher, Ding Ding 81, Susita NM, A Huff, Christian Dane, Shadow Patriot, Terry Alminius, Dr. R Fuzz, Paging Dr. R Fuzz, Miss K, BB, Zendra Zero, Charlie Fisher, Thistles, Last Stand, Teresa Bailey, Brett Higgins, Stephanie Erickson, Anthony Haley. Whew. Thank you all for being the heart of Team Night Shift, the Army of the Night. Wow. You guys are making it possible for me to justify the time it takes to come into this room and make this show every week. So I salute all of you. And today I've got the, this is the Look Up shirt. There you go. This is the Look Up shirt. Our graphic designer, Cole Watkins, go to the merch page, scroll to the bottom, click contact. You can reach right out to him directly. Graphic designer Cole Watkins was so good. He's so good. I said, I need a new logo. He didn't give me one logo. He actually gave me four and a half logos, and they were all good. And it was so hard to pick one. I picked them all. And I just said, what do I have to do to make this work? And we made it work. And he is a hero. So this is called the Look Up logo. And there you go. If you want to show a saucer, you got your saucer right here. Keep looking up. Scoot my chair in. Today's coffee is Middle Fork Roasters Single Origin. Here you go, from Seattle. Really great stuff. And I'm drinking it from the Night Shift mug. If you haven't got yours, head over to the merch page on the website and pick one up. While you're there, get a decal for your laptop. We've got it all. And some new stuff coming too. All right, so that's web stuff. That's what else? Thank everybody. You're all thanked. Thank you. Mailing list, we did that. So let's talk about today's special. Remember that show? Oh, let's check in on the chat. Positive vibes. Welcome, Space Cal Anthony. Welcome. Yaya Pluto, Chemix, Sam, Rob G. Welcome, everyone. All right, so the UFO news this week is that there's just a ton of gossipy stuff going on in the space, and that's not really what I want to talk to you about today, because I think I have something better. I actually didn't really have a plan for today's show until about 3.5 hours ago, and then it kind of came together while I was cleaning my bathroom. I interviewed recently Matthew Roberts. Let me say that again. I had the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Matthew Roberts, the author of this book. It's called Initiated. Matthew Roberts was on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt as a Navy cryptologist during the events that later leaked as the Gimbal video and Go Fast. And shortly after that video was shot, he saw it in a skiff on board the ship. And when he saw it, he became kind of obsessed with it, and it sort of shifted his perspective a little bit. And then he has this really amazing journey of self-discovery and sort of a shift in paradigm. Like it's almost like not a metamorphosis, but a catharsis that takes place over the next few years. And he winds up writing this book about it, and he tells this really fascinating story. But what's really interesting about, there are many interesting things about it. In particular, how much of it is about synchronicity and how much synchronicity affects people who find themselves investigating the phenomenon. It becomes a part of your life. I'll give you, for instance, I decided to start doing this show. I started doing it. I'm reading, trying to figure out who I'm going to reach out to interview, and I'm reading Matthew's book, and I'm sitting on my couch and I'm reading it, And in the book, he talks about another book called The Kabbalion. I look up, I glance up from where I'm at, and this book is sitting on my coffee table. And it was just like little things like that. I reached out to a friend who knew Matthew and was able to get in contact with him. And Eric, the host of the UAP Therapist podcast, another great podcast you should check out. And Eric was kind enough to pass my message along, and I got in contact with Matthew, and we sat down and started talking. So synchronicities, they start to happen, and it somehow ties back into the larger consciousness connection. So the story of Initiated is about his initiation into this new paradigm, this new way of thinking, this new way of being. And it was a really excellent interview. I really enjoyed it because it was so we covered everything. Like, we covered part of his story. It kind of kicks off when he has an experience with a being appearing in his room when he's sleeping, and he wakes up and he's actually looking at a being in his room. So as someone who's had an encounter directly, a close encounter, he has this unbelievable experience, and then that sort of kicks everything off. So it becomes real for him in multiple different ways. And that conversation got me thinking about a lot of different things. And I guess that's why politics has been on my mind lately, because obviously it's politics season. But Wednesday, I went off my normal flight path a little bit and spoke about politics, and I got some really negative comments, but they were very few, and I got an enormous number of very supportive, encouraging comments, and I thought, yeah, this is what Matthew was kind of getting at in our interview, and we started to I just started to ruminate on it a little bit, and I want to show you some clips from that interview. It's still being edited, so it's not ready to go just yet, but I pulled a few clips that I think are relevant, and I thought we could watch them today and then kind of tease out the interview a little bit. Let's see. Quick growth of the channel's growing fast. Where's Christopher? I don't know. Where is Christopher? Sam, catching up on Red Dwarf, Gunman of the Apocalypse is my all-time favorite episode. The Western. Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. Man, I like Polymorph, but that's a good one. Okay. Let's see here. So I've got a couple clips. We'll go through them, and let me just cue this up. The first is Matt. Actually, let me go back to main view here. The first is Matt setting up kind of the events that I just talked about, the encounter with the being. But before we get to that, he's articulating kind of in his journey sort of the mental space that happens, the mental shift that happens when someone has an experience. And I just want to back up a little bit and kind of like articulate this idea a little bit better and give you kind of a framework for where I'm going with this. Because we're going to wind up talking about politics at the end of this, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that doesn't, it's not getting into the mud of what's going on right now. There's a thing that happens to astronauts. I think it's called the overview effect. If you're familiar with this, the overview effect. This is for people who have traveled into orbit and seen the Earth from space, and they get this sort of shift in their mindset. Their paradigm changes, and they become much more empathetic, much more resistant to bullshit. They become much more open-minded, much more in touch with humanity as a species and the planet as a living creature, living entity. The overview effect, it happens. And it happens to people who have been experienced psychedelics. The CIA and the military experimented with this. They gave soldiers LSD, and they chose not to fight. They just couldn't fight. They didn't even want to fight. They thought fighting was ridiculous. There's a great clip. There's a number of great clips. There's a lot of footage of this on YouTube. You can do like U.S. military LSD experiments. The CIA did this whole thing with MK Ultra later, which was sort of a much more twisted experiment. But this was basically the idea. People, when exposed to psychedelics, just found the whole notion of violence sort of silly and childish. And it happens to experiencers. It's happened to me. I experienced this myself, and I can describe what it was like for me. It happened to Matthew. It happens to a lot of people. You have an experience that is so far outside the bounds of your day-to-day reality that exceeds it pushes the limit of what you can accept. And it pushes it outward a little bit. And when you come back from that experience, you can't wake up the same way anymore. You can't look at the world the same way anymore. The things that used to matter to you don't matter to you anymore. The things that didn't matter to you matter in different ways now. And it becomes, you get much more real about what's important in life. This was my experience. I had I've mentioned this story a few times on the channel. I had an ayahuasca experience in Peru. Um, like many middle-aged white guys, I went to Peru and had an ayahuasca experience. But my wife is Peruvian, so I feel like that gives me a little more street cred. And she set it up. So during that event, without getting into all the whole story, that was I had a massive dose of ayahuasca. Even for people who know who've done ayahuasca, I had a lot, and I experienced what was a precognition event. I experienced beings that were not human, that were intelligent, that communicated with me. I heard voices. I had conversations with these beings. I had downloads of information, and I was shown events that would take place years later. And for a long time, I didn't really know whether or not what I experienced was real until the stuff that I was shown in that vision happened in my life. And when it did, it clicked for me. It was like someone flipped a switch, and it was like, oh, that's real. And when that happened, over a period of the next few years after my experience, I couldn't drink alcohol really anymore. I still can't. I don't like it. I just don't. I used to drink a lot. I don't anymore. I had to give that up. I just don't care about a lot of the bullshit that I used to care about. It's things that used to drive me for the first half of my entire life. They used to drive me. I just don't give a shit anymore. I don't care. And I look around at the world, and I look at other people, and I look at the way that our situation is unfolding. And as someone who's kind of in that middle age bracket right now, and I'm a father, I'm a kind of late in life father. I don't have time for the bullshit anymore. I just don't. And that my empathy, my sense of like right and wrong, my internal compass about what I want, what kind of world I want to live in, has clicked into place in a way that it never did before. That was my experience. And I felt since then, I've had numerous synchronous events that have happened that have led to me launching this show, that have led to this show growing, that have led to people reaching out to me and different things that are happening. All of that stuff started to fall in place after I had this shift in my understanding of how big reality really is. It's bigger than I can understand, but I went just that far outside of my comfort zone, and I was able to get a little breath of that air, and it opened my mind to a whole new way of thinking. And it became wired, like hardwired into the system. Like it's just part of me now. Matthew Roberts had the same experience, and he talks about it. I've got a great clip of him discussing it. And a number of other people that I've spoken to who are experiencers have had this happen. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because the point of today's show is I want to start to think about, if the reason I started with what would you do if disclosure happened right now is because disclosure is going to come one form or another. You're either going to have your own personal experience or you've already had them where you're convinced. And you don't need anybody to tell. It doesn't matter who comes out tomorrow. And the president could come out tomorrow. It doesn't matter because you've already been there. Or you are going to be around on the day that the president does come out, or you're going to see some kind of mass event where something huge happens and we all see it at the same time and it won't matter anymore. Like what the point being, on a long enough timeline, we're all going to find out because this is not going to stay secret forever. It's just not. This stuff isn't all happening in nowhere land. It's happening here. It's happening now. It's happening like in Congress. They're actually passing real legislation. The military is really dealing with this. It's real. This is real. And there's going to come a point where that fact sinks in and soaks in and everyone's just aware of it. My question is, what do you do the day after that? What comes the week after that? What comes the year after that? A year after disclosure happens, or let's just say flying saucers show up above every major city in the world or something. I don't know. Just pick anything. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is. Are we really going to sit through another fucking election cycle like this one, or the one before it, or the one before that, or the one before that, or the one before that? How many times are we going to go through this again and again and again, where a couple of politicians get up there and promise a bunch of stuff that we know they're never going to do, and the economy continues to crumble all around us? The people at the top keep becoming richer. There's trillionaires now. Jeff Bezos owns the moon. Elon owns Mars. Like, are we going to keep doing this? Or are we going to rise to the challenge, rise to the occasion, and take a little bit of responsibility for where we're at and act like adults? Because if there is a galactic community, if there is a community of intelligent beings, that something like the Federation of Planets or something, in which very credible people are on record saying exists, if that's real, why would they let us in? What do we have to offer? What are we bringing to the table? That's a question. I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm telling you, like, what I want you to think about it. Like, what do we bring to the table here? Because what we have to offer as humanity is so amazing and beautiful, but we've got to get our shit together first. We have to figure out what's important to us. We have to figure out what it means to be one planet. We have to understand that. We have to stop tolerating leaders or potential leaders or wannabe leaders who fill our heads full of nonsense and confuse and disorient everyone. And we need to start looking for the commonalities between across red and blue and all these stupid political systems that we use to divide and disrupt and distract and disorient people. So we're going to go to that clip next. Hang on. I'm checking the chat here. Hi from Southern California. West Coast in the house. Starfish Troopers podcast. Welcome to I Want to Believe. Welcome to Team Night Shift. Welcome to the heart of Team Night Shift, our Army of the Night member. Thank you so much. They flipped the switch feeling is something you just can't ignore. Sam Sawney. Am I saying that right? The flipped switch feeling is something you just can't ignore once you've experienced it. I remember the recent video you did, which included the AI reprogramming for prisoners stuff, and the comment made about making people productive members of society versus the concept of letting people just be. Why we have to spend our time working ourselves to death. Yes, we're the only species on this planet who has to work and pay bills to live here. That's ridiculous. I'm going to go a step beyond this part, and I'm just going to throw something out there for you just to consider. In the United States, we spend almost $1 trillion a year. It's 800 billion, but depending on who you ask, just say $1 trillion a year. At some point, these numbers are just made up numbers anyway. On defense, more than the next 10 largest defense budgets in the world combined, 5 of which belong to allies. That is how much the United States spends on defense that we know of. And this is an organization that has never passed an audit, ever. So, why is it that their budget continues to increase year upon year upon year? And how is that possible if we never have any fucking money? In this country, we are told we can never afford to do anything. We can't fix the roads. We can't give you health care. We can't give you education. We can't forgive your student loans. We can't stop the banks from buying up all the houses. 44% of the houses sold were sold to banks in this country last year, most of them to BlackRock. And these banks want to rent these homes back out to you for the rest of your lives. So we're in this situation now where we have been led so far down the primrose path to just into this screwed up situation. Are you going to put up with that going forward, knowing that there is technology that can shut this whole system off and switch over to something completely amazing? If there's an alternative presented to you, would you take it? If we see, and I think this is at the heart of really what the big secrecy is all about, when we accept the fact that there is a civilization out there that's not us, that's made it past where we are we going to put up with the bullshit here anymore? Or are we going to look at that civilization and go, you know what? We need to do better. There's a path. There's a path to there, and we need to take that path. We need to go there. So that's what this show is really about today. That's what I want to talk about. Let's look at this clip from this interview with Matthew. He's going to describe his encounter with a being and why it kind of made him feel creepy. Let me see if I have audio here.
The ontological shock of, wow, this is real, happened just in watching the gimbal footage. You know, I'm sitting here in a skiff and I'm watching this footage for the first time in 2015. You know, the world didn't see it until much later. And so it's like, okay, I guess all this stuff is real, you know. And my thought about that was, well, you know, I'm just going to put this in the back of my mind. I'm not going to look into it any further because it seemed a little creepy to me because I was getting these creepy vibes about all around kind of this idea of this topic.
What was creepy about it though for you in that particular instance?
You know, I had a very emotional reaction to it, and I could not understand that at the time. It was very confusing to me, and no one else was having this reaction to it. So that's kind of what I found creepy about it. And I had this feeling that, you know, this kind of creepy, just weird, very off-putting feeling that they were there for me, you know, and I just it made my skin crawl, really, at the time. So I didn't want to go there, you know.
So that kind of starts that's the way the book starts. That's the beginning. And it just gets stranger and stranger and stranger. And as it plays out, all these different things happen. And I want to play the next clip where he kind of describes his mindset and the shift in thinking. And here, let's just go to that. Sort of the politics of disclosure.
I've watched a few episodes of your podcast, and what I like about it is I watched, I think, one of your live streams.
Where, oh boy, those are new. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was someone who kind of got a little bit upset in the chat because you were bringing up politics, right? And you kind of, you know, I think rightly put that in its right place and said, no, this does have to do with politics because, you know, there's all of these things involved. There's government is involved in this. There's crash retrievals. There's technology. There's real stuff here, right? And if you if you read people like Diana Pasulka, or you listen to interviews that she's done, she certainly talks about how there are people who have this special kind of connection with the phenomenon, and they end up developing technologies, and not just simple technologies, things that are very complex, that are very much needed, right? And so I think in the past, what people have done is, inventors and things like that, I just, I tripped and I mixed these two things together and it was an accident, right?
Yeah, like
and,
a Jerry Lewis.
right.
Sure.
Yeah. And, or, oh yeah, it just popped into my head. I don't know where it came from, and so it becomes somewhat acceptable for people to say things like that, if they're inventing technology, or if they're considered a genius, right? But if you really dig into some of these people's backgrounds, you can begin to find that they follow this esoteric stuff because they've had contact, right? And that's why they can do what they do. And so I think that that's where we need to bridge the gap, right? There's this disconnect between, spirituality being a belief, and then there's science, right? And science is provable. But I can tell you, like, plenty of people have had these experiences, and so that too, it's certainly repeatable, and so you can study that if you choose to, right? And so that's what we need to start doing. We need to start looking into this and studying it and taking it seriously, because it is very serious. And in terms of politics, I'll say this, that this transformational change that people go through, it makes you wiser. You're a lot wiser to people's bullshit. So you're less likely to be taken advantage of politically. I'll put it that way. Like,
Seems to make people more empathetic too.
Yeah, and no politician's gonna stand there and be able to convince you of some lie, right? Like, nobody can lie to me anymore. Like, you can't lie to me, because I know the truth now, right? And so for you to tell me that, we need to have haves and have-nots, right? That's the way our society has to be set up. And no, it doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a liar is what you are. And you're projecting psychologically. And the whole psychological aspect of this thing is the thing that I really harp on, because that's where I think the real world value comes in for the everyday person. Not only in terms of, the science and inventing technologies, but also just the knowing, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's very profound that no one can ever lie to you again. And even if they think they're telling the truth, it's very strange that people can lie and they think they're telling the truth, and they're just a liar. They're lying to themselves, and everyone else.
I love that clip. I think that's so on point, because he's talking about not only the fact that seeing it, having the experience, it becoming real for you, or you just accepting the fact that it's real, opens up your perspective to include so much more. It adjusts your priorities in a way that makes almost like, this is why I'm so dissatisfied with the political discourse, is because that whole system is like faulty and based on a paradigm that won't exist in a few years. And it won't be adequate for the problems that we have to solve between here and there. It's certainly not going to be adequate for the world of tomorrow. The world of tomorrow is going to be so vastly different between alien, non human intelligence, extraterrestrial intelligence, artificial intelligence, all these different things that are going to be these forces that are being unleashed. It's going to require a new paradigm thinking. And we're going to have to start sort of operating at a higher level here a little bit and taking a little bit more responsibility for who we allow to be in the position of leadership and what we expect from our leaders going forward. I've mentioned it before here. I'm 43 this year, and for most of my life, I've watched like this generation, right? We've just been through some weird stuff. And I think I'm at a point now, like, let's just go back. In the 80s, we were told climate change was a thing. We were told it was a real thing. We were told it was a problem. In the 90s, we were told that it was being worked on, that there were solutions in the works, and that these things were going to come online and that things were going to be okay. In the 2000s, we started to see that that wasn't true, and the weather was starting to get weird. Of course, 9/11 happened. That was a shock coming right out of like high school and beginning your adult life. You walk right out into the world, and then a year or two later, boom, you're hit with this. And that launched an entire war. Afghanistan happens. The longest war in American history. We spend trillions of dollars fighting this war. I know many people who served in Afghanistan. They come back, and when they left that war, they came home, and it was like we just left our shit and left. We just got up and left, and that was it. And it was like, what are we doing? The financial crash of 2008, of course, COVID, the whole Trump administration, which was just insane. I'm not afraid to say it. I know I ruffle some political feathers from time to time if I, speak out about whatever, but he's categorically insane. Like, Trump is a lunatic. He should be allowed nowhere near power. If you wouldn't let him watch your child, then I wouldn't let him watch our nuclear arsenal. So, like, that's how I feel. But would it matter? All of these things happening, they've sort of put me in a mindset where I'm looking around now, and I'm at this like midpoint in life, and I've got a kid, and I'm looking at the world, and I'm looking at all the bullshit that I was told. Every year now, the weather is getting worse. Look at this. I want to show you this. I pulled this up. Actually, I had these set aside for like a week ago, and I didn't do anything with them. So let's do this. I just pulled a few articles. This is all from 1 week. Look at this. July 1, Hurricane Beryl, now an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm, heads for the Caribbean. We know how that turned out, but this was the fastest Category 5 storm, happened the earliest in the season. This has never happened before. This is a new thing. We're in a new world now. Look at the next headline. Here we go. Record temperatures scorch U.S. West as Americans sweat through extreme heat. Extreme heat. Reuters, a widespread heat wave is expected to deliver, this is 6 days later, July 7th, deliver a fresh batch of record temperatures along the U.S. West Coast as millions of Americans sweat through a heat dome that is hovering over Arizona and Nevada. About 36 million people, roughly 10% of the country, are under excessive heat warnings coming from the heat dome. I love these words. I love these terms they come up with. They have all this like verbal judo they do to get you to not think about climate change. It's a heat dome. It's El Nino. Now it's La Nina. Don't worry. Every year, the weather is so completely fucked up all over the world. And it's like that. It's like a scene from a Dennis Quaid movie. And you're looking around at it, watching the news, and you're just going, this is really happening. Look, this shit is really happening. And then you turn on the local weather and they're like, oh, it's a heat dome. This weekend looks nice. Don't worry about it. This is where we are right now. China set to release killer robots into battle within 2 years. Have you seen the drone warfare going on in Ukraine right now? It's insane. Look at this. Nearly 30,000 people. This is the same week. This is Wednesday, 3 July 2024. All the same week. 30,000 people in Northern California evacuated as raging wildfire spreads. This isn't even we haven't even gotten to Europe or South America. Thousands of homes under threat from a raging wildfire that erupted in Northern California on Tuesday. They have fires in Canada now that make the skies in New York City turn red. Shit's burning in California, and you can see it on the beach in Florida. Like, guys, this is the end of the movie. We're at the end of the movie. I'm telling you, you have to get serious about this. We have got to get real, people. This is important shit. And do you hear either political candidate right now running for office talking about any of this stuff? The best we got out of Trump was rake the forest. We're going to rake it. Joe Biden doesn't even know what room he's in. He has no idea what's going on. The Democrats can't even figure out who they want to lead. Who would they pull off of their tiny dance card of like 3 or 4 people that they will allow to get close to that office? That party is useless. The Republican Party is useless. They're both completely detached from reality. They have no clue what's going on. They're all led by people that are 85 years old. They're not going to be here when your kids grow up. These people who are making the decisions that are going to affect your child's life are not going to be here. They have no skin in this game. And if they do, they don't care. The people who do have skin in the game that are going to be around, that have the money to do something about it, are building $140 million survival bunkers in Hawaii, Zuckerberg, because they know what's coming. The Department of Defense, one of the things they did with the $1 trillion a year that they get from their crazy defense budget was look at what the effects of climate change are going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And I have to find this report. I'll dig it up and show it to you. But one of the things they found out is that, and the Australians did this too, they had their own study. If anybody else knows which study this is, please send it in the chat. But they had their own study. And you know what they figured out? At a certain point in the very near future, we're talking like 2050, civilization collapses. Those aren't my words. That's from their report. This is the Department of Defense, the United States government, Australian Ministry of Defense, or department, I don't know what they have in Australia, but their defense people looked at this. Strategists are looking at this. Billionaires can hire private intelligence people who can read the tea leaves and tell you what's going on. And this is what's happening. This is kind of where we are right now. So I'm here to tell you the climate situation. Here's my sense of it from where I sit. It's way worse than they've been telling us, and it's been way worse since the beginning. Because when I started hearing about it in the 80s, they were acting like they had just figured all this shit out. But we know that the executives at, was it Exxon? I think, was it Shell? Knew in the 60s their own internal science, their own documents, their own scientists told them that we would be exactly where we are today. The Club of Rome did a famous study, looked at just projected future trends, and they were like, when does civilization collapse? Right around 2050, 2060. That's when it collapses. And they did this back in the 60s. They have known this for as long, if you're my age, for as long as you've been alive, and then longer. They have known how fucked up the situation is, and they have chosen to ignore it, and they have chosen to pretend that it's not real. And they have pulled the wool over your eyes, and they have convinced all of us that we should be out here chasing our tails and having this stupid red versus blue political game that goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. There's no future to this system. New paradigm thinking is about that. It's taking that on board. It's taking that inside and going, you know what? And then we look around at this economy where we're constantly told we have no money to do anything positive. We only have money to give to the Defense Department. That's all we have money to do. And somehow, every year, even when we have no money and we're deficit spending every single year, they find more money. They fucking find more money to give these people. And then they turn right back around and they tell you they can't find it for you. How long are you going to put up with this bullshit? This is not, we're not even playing the same sport. They're in another world. Their world is not based on real rules. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. They make up money. They invent it when they need it. They invent it, and it comes in a computer. They type it in, and there it is. They have $1 trillion. They have another $1 trillion. And yet, when they come after you, they are taking your real property. If the IRS comes after you, they're going to take your real assets. When banks come after you, they take your real shit. But when they have money to spend, it's fake money. It's not real. They have monopoly money. So here's my question. If we're all just making this up as we go, if that's what we're doing here, if we've all just accepted that we're in a system that people can just make shit up and it's okay, and that's fine, we can just invent trillions of dollars out of thin air and just do whatever we want with it, then my question is, why aren't we doing better things with it? And I'm talking about the world of today with today's technology, the way that we understand it. Now, skip ahead. Let's fast forward. Remember fast forwarding? Fast forward a little bit. Let's go past the day after disclosure, the year after disclosure, 2 years after disclosure, 10 years after disclosure. What do we do when we know that there is a device the size of a toaster that can sit on your countertop and power your home for free forever? What do we do when we know that artificial intelligence can now adequately run our entire planet and robots can do all of the work and physical tasks that humans used to do? What are we going to do when we look around and we don't have a need for a working class? There is no need for it anymore. There's just the economy detaches from the regular person, and your only function is to serve as a consumer. And you're given a universal basic income to survive on, and you're told, like, that's it. This is what you get. Are you going to be okay with that? I'm not okay with that. You know what world I want? I want Star Trek. I was promised fucking Star Trek. We were promised flying cars, hoverboards, replicators, holodecks, free energy. That is what's so great about Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry, of all the science fiction that is out there, of all of the stuff that you could watch, Star Trek was the one show that articulated a future where humanity had solved all of these problems. We had solved them. And the biggest challenge that you had was to figure out how to better yourself, how to be a better person. And for a lot of people, that just meant like opening a Cajun restaurant or becoming a baseball player or learning to play the oboe or joining Starfleet. If you're really bored on Earth, which is a paradise at that time, you join Starfleet and you go out and seek out new life and new civilizations. That's the world I want. I'm angry because I've been lied to. You've been lied to. We've all been lied to. And the people who are going to grow up in this world are children today, and no one's speaking for them. And I'm tired of it. I'm just fucking over it. I'm sick of it. And we're allowing billionaires and mega corporations to just dictate the terms of the world in reality to us. And if you've had an experience where you've seen a flying saucer, an orb, a UFO, a being in your room, you've experienced something that just shakes you to your core and totally blows apart that existential moment internally, you can't come back and turn on the news and watch these talking heads just go with all the same old fucking bullshit over and over and over again. It just doesn't float anymore. So with that out of the way, I'm going to show you the last clip I have from Matthew Roberts, who I think speaks to this point, and then we'll wrap up with our final thought. Let's turn off news. Here we go. I think he nails it right here.
I've watched a few episodes of your podcast, and what I like about it is
clip.
I watched, I think, one of your live.
Here we go. This one.
We're either going to lose everything, and we're going to go back to hunter-gatherers, or we're going to move forward. And if I have anything to say about it, we're going to move forward. We have to kind of hammer it home that the people who we want to elect have to be people that make us want to be better. Right? They can't play to our worst selves. They can't make us want to be worse, right? There's got to be some inspiration there. And if you're voting for someone and they make you want to be better, then you're on the right track. If they play and harp on your worst fears and just the worst aspects of yourself, you're headed down the wrong road, and you're going to destroy yourself with that. Plato, who lived to see the collapse of Athenian democracy, thought, well, maybe democracy is not the best system, right? Because it's in a democracy, the leaders are going to tell you whatever you want to hear, or anything, right? You can just sit on your ass, right? You don't have to think. I'll do all your thinking for you. You don't have to worry your pretty little head. And that's the wrong way to go about this. Everyone should be thinking. Everyone should have their head on a swivel. Everyone should be on guard for bullshit. Maybe a democracy is not the best thing for that. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I think we're going to have to, at some point, make that decision. And we certainly need people in charge who are true visionaries that can see, point A, where we are now, and point B, where these others are, right, with their technology. They did not destroy themselves. And how did they do that, right? And how are we going to get there? And that's why we need the visionaries, people who know, right, how this works and how this is going to go and how this is going to unfold. Because anyone who hasn't experienced it doesn't know. They just don't. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I think that we're in for some rough times here.
The thing about Star Trek is before they get to the utopia, they fight a third world war and it kills almost everybody. And it takes a very long time and it's very nasty. And then they rebuild civilization. And I think, it's also because I'm old and I like my old shows, but I remember being a kid in the 90s watching Star Trek The Next Generation and feeling like the optimism of that time. There was a lot of optimism. Like things were going to get better and we were going to like do amazing things. It was going to be wonderful. And that's just not what happened. I think Matthew speaks to that in a way that is very poignant and really hit home for me. And he says, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is either. I don't think any one of us knows what the answer. I know Donald Trump doesn't know what the answer. I know Joe Biden clearly doesn't know what the answer is. I don't think any of the political people that we're seeing right now really have an answer. It's not about having an answer. And I don't want to get pinned down on like, well, what's the answer? We'll figure it out. Like you tell us. I can't tell you because I don't know. But what I know is that we are at an inflection point as a species. We're at an inflection point as a planet. We're at an inflection point. We have to grow up or perish, evolve or die. We have to decide what we're going to do here. Like, what are we fucking doing here? What are we doing here? We're spending $1 trillion a year on defense. China's doing its thing. People are building killer robots. We've got crazy AI. Like what is the project of civilization about? If we're not trying to go to the stars, then what are we doing here? If we're not trying to survive and better our planet and preserve all life and help us become self-actualized, better beings and make sure that we eliminate suffering. If we're not doing that, then what are we doing? Why are we were wasting our time making sexier underpants and chocolatier chocolates? We have real problems that require real solutions. And apparently we have an unlimited supply of fake money that we can use to fund all this. So I would propose this to you. This is what I submit to you. The real fear about this information becoming public and the real fear about it getting out is because it's not just going to be, it's all going to be on the table. Everything's going to be on the table. When it finally does all come out, and the smoke settles, the dust clears, and we're left with the reality of we now have this other thing. They're here. And we are dealing with them. And it's like a part of our day-to-day reality, this other civilization or collection of civilizations. Then everything we've been doing is on the table. Like capitalism, what's that? Like, what's the point? Why do we need billionaires? Billionaires are obsolete. Money's obsolete. Consumerism is obsolete. It's all kind of over. That system just becomes obsolete. And when it becomes obsolete, the people at the top of it are no longer required. We will no longer be requiring your services. They know that. That's what they know. They understand this. And that's what they're afraid of. It's that they want to hang on until the very last minute. And unfortunately, sooner or later, one of two things is going to happen. We are going to destroy ourselves and civilization collapses either through ecological catastrophe or nuclear conflagration, or we level up. We level our game up and we reach a positive singularity. There's a positive outcome for humankind, and we make contact as an enlightened species that, at least at the very minimum, understands that we can't just launch nuclear weapons at each other and treat our ocean like an open sewer and throw every chemical that we can create into our biosphere and expect everything to be okay. Like, we've got to at least take that on board. And when I say take it on board, I just mean all of us agree that that's like some basic shit. There's some basic sacred things we just don't do. We're not going to go there anymore. Do we get there? I don't know. Are we going to get there? Maybe. I hope. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. That's why this channel is an art project. It's not, if I can do anything with it, if anything comes out of this little project, I hope it's that it lets you know that you're not the only one who thinks this way. You're not the only one who feels this. You're not the only one who's looking around feeling like really weird about where we're at right now. Because we are I'm telling you, we are in a weird time. This is the strangest time to be alive that has ever been. And what comes next is going to be so gargantuan that no one can really prepare for it. We have to level up our thinking. I just want you to know that there's other people out there who are there with you. And UFOs, UAPs, orbs, disclosure, this conversation that I'm trying to have starts with disclosure. It doesn't end with disclosure. This conversation begins on the day that we find out. Begins on the day that there's a mass event and there's no more denying it anymore. We all know. And it's just out. That's where the conversation starts. And the question is, what kind of world do you want to live in? So think about that. That's important. It's super important. The eugenics war. Yeah. And then we got Khan. Us millennials got lied to beyond belief. Oh, yeah. China's ghost cities. It's not that utopian in Star Trek they got rid of unwanted people first in the eugenics war, only then they got spaceships. Yeah, in Star Trek they had a positive contact experience and it led to a positive outcome. The Vulcans show up and they reach that point. I would go a step further with the Star Trek analogy because it feels like, this is just my intuition, but it feels like the phenomenon, whatever it may be, the intelligence, the extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, the activity is now increasing because of some technologies that we have developed. It started with nuclear weapons, but it's also, have you noticed like the advancements in nuclear technology, nuclear weaponry, artificial intelligence, and the climate catastrophe all unfolding at the same time, all of these things happening in tandem, all of them relate back to this increase in UFO, UAP activity. I believe that there is some kind of a point in the near future where some event that they can probably detect and see, but maybe we can't, takes place. And that's what's going to shift everything. I have no way of proving that. I'm not certainly no expert on alternate parallel timelines or alternate futures, but I have a feeling that they are looking for technologies and there are milestones. In Star Trek, it was warp drive. When the Vulcans were passing through our system and they detected a warp signature that shouldn't have been there, they turned to investigate and they found out Zefram Cochrane had just achieved warp speed for the first time with Geordi LaForge and Commander Riker. So, and some Steppenwolf, I think it was. They make contact, they land, and that begins the utopian future that humanity was able to achieve. And Star Trek is a beautiful series for just that reason. And if you haven't already seen it, by the way, go watch, if you're into Star Trek, go watch Strange New Worlds with Anson Mount as Captain Pike. He's great. He's like the best captain since well, he's one of the best. He's right up there. He is like the perfect casting choice. And that cast is awesome. The writing is phenomenal. It's probably the best version of Star Trek I've seen since The Next Generation. It's really, really good. All right, gang. I have to wrap it there. I'm out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I want to just say one last time, thank you for joining me again. Thank you for coming back. If you watched if you watched my last one and you came back, thank you. If you're still with me and we don't agree politically, thank you for sticking around. I respect that, and that's awesome. I hope that I hope that not only can I win over a few people who may not agree with me, but I hope that we can have a conversation together and maybe elevate the dialogue for all of us. And I want to learn some things too. I certainly don't have all the answers. I'm glad that we were able to sit down and do this again today. How are you liking these live streams? Please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and share and do all the other things. And if you're not already a subscriber, hit that button. Become a member of Team Night Shift. Join us. It's a lot of fun. We have a great community here of open-minded, well-intentioned people who are interested in a positive outcome for humanity and concerned about the future and the direction our species is headed in. I owe this all to you guys that have come on and stuck with me from the beginning. The fact that we're even here doing this still almost a year later, we're going on a year now, 8 months ago. That's because you guys stuck around. So thank you. And for all the new people who have just joined us, welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to wrap it there. I will have this interview, hopefully with Matthew Roberts, the full complete interview ready to go in a day or two. My hope was to have it up by today, but we have a few little last minute things I have to fix. So maybe tomorrow, but probably this weekend. And next week we'll be back. I'm trying to decide if I should stick with Wednesdays and Fridays or switch to Tuesdays and Thursdays, or does it even matter? I don't know. You guys let me know. I'm still figuring all this stuff out. So thank you. Let's just go back to the chat one last time. Thanks. Loving the live streams. Great to hear, Sam. Thank you. Space Cow, thank you. Proud Vermin, thanks for the distraction. Glad to help. Heather, by the way, I'm glad you got your mug. And I'm glad that the website worked out. And if it's not giving you any more trouble, great. If it is, and you need to get in contact with me, go to the website, send an email. It goes right to me. Comments, sometimes I have a lot of comments to get to, so I don't see them all sometimes, and occasionally that doesn't go through. I will put out a poll. Thanks, Miss K. Great idea. All right, live long and prosper, everyone. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep looking up.
Keeping watch at Area 51. Mind is sharp, eyes locked like a loaded gun. CCTV feeds, ET beings. Don't come round here, we can kill it if it bleeds. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Orbs light up the sky, something isn't right. Dark truths hidden, but I'm aware. Night shift soldier, secrets everywhere. You on the night shift, baby. On patrol, night camouflage, stealth mode on. Walking through the silence till the break of dawn. Hidden bases, close encounters of the fourth kind. Bob Lazar was right, this life's a grind. Sci-fi stories going down right before my eyes. They beaming signals for the stars, no disguise. Clearance above top secret, that's the key. You on the night shift, baby. Welcome to the mystery.